Alright, EA Ermor, turn 89. This could be the last turn of the game. I am actually kind of excited, like even if Niflheim does pull off the win, I've made it to the end of a couple of Full House games, but I've never actually seen one officially end. It's always ended via a vote. So, even if we lose this, it would be kind of exciting to lose proper and, actually have someone win on, throne victory. So without further ado, let's go take a look at what went down. Oh, yeah, no, that's our rating. Yes, like I said, the rating is going well. But yeah, Yellow Mountains is what matters. The rest of that rating, if we lose here, doesn't matter at all. Oh wait, excuse me, this is our gem burning attack. So this does matter, but not as much. There are fewer giants here than I was expecting. It does look like this is enough to burn gems. So that's good, considering that we are spending quite a bit. Like I said, I'm not really expecting this to do too much. Yeah, we're just killing off some bugs here. Let's see, natural storm. Okay, so Niflheim is putting up storm, so guess mass flight was not the plan. There's foul vapors. Yeah, we should be ready for that. Darkness, that's not going to be great for us. Light of the Northern Star will actually help us. And yeah, we're not really going to kill anything with this attack. There's some possibility, maybe they poison, does this fellow? Yeah, he only has, the battlefield wide buff, so he could theoretically take some poison damage, but it's pretty unlikely, and the battle's not going to last long enough for it to really matter too much. But still, at least, our gem burning attack did do its job. So let's see if we can find, okay, there's a battle at our fortress in Yellow Mountains. Man, there's a lot of battles this turn. I don't know if we're going to look at them, I guess, I mean, I'll look at them. I guess we can look at them, but they won't matter if this doesn't go our way. So we brought in a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff. We're casting Storm. There's our Storm. And there's our Wailing Winds. Here goes our Chaff. There goes our Poison Resistance, our Army of Lead, which also gives us MR, and it looks like Niflheim may not have brought enough gems and that our gem burn did work out. Let me put on team colored squares here for us. Okay, now that we can actually sort of see what's going on, yeah, actually Niflheim is sitting back, which I was not expecting, although it is a good way to assault a fort, and now unfortunately a lot of our stuff is actually getting out. That said, we actually outnumber Niflheim, which is not that unusual of a situation when you're up against the giants. It's just hard for them to mass a lot of units. These guys are incredibly expensive, even the unit giants. I think they're over 100 gold, which is the price of a mage. There goes our fog warriors. So yeah, I don't know if this is, I wouldn't exactly say this is going well for us. I don't think we'll lose, right? Because Niflheim just aren't able to put up, well, no, they still have some spells going off. Yeah, Quagmire, I think that might have been us. Hard to say. Niflheim likes using Sea Kings as well. But yeah, there's Wailing Winds taking effect, right? So they definitely have some retreaters. Okay, actually these trolls are just killing wolves. I think we also cast Howl. Yeah, we had a Lar cast Howl, because why not? More chaff. But anyway, I'm not sure, right? We're missing the killing component. So I don't know how many kills we're actually gonna get out of this. And we are spending all the gems, right? I figured, well, it's win or lose, so throw everything, which is kind of how I like to play anyway. I like to throw everything into the battle. There's an Arrowfen. Probably I put extra gems on everyone, so this is all off script. So it's yeah, sure, why not? Arrowfen, do it. I don't think there's a single archer on Niflheim's side, but you never know when one of them might try an evocation, ground army. Oh no, that was Niflheim. Probably also off script. So yeah, you can see we're not really getting any kills, right? This giant is completely surrounded by these ethereal, super buffed fire snakes, but he doesn't really. We might get him. We might get a few giants, and I don't really see our Equite so much anymore, which is sad. Always sad to be losing the Equite. This is Niflheim's Troll King, who's very fatigued out. Quagmire, we didn't manage to get. Probably just didn't have the Deathcasters for Rigor Mortis, because we definitely have more undead troops that don't care about fatigue as compared to Niflheim, and the wolves come in without fatigue. But really, I think it's Wailing Winds that's doing the majority of the work for us. I mean, in addition to we did bring a lot of garbage, and then we generated a lot of garbage as well. So, between all of our garbage and the Wailing Winds, we do get the win here, in theory. Oh no, we've trapped some units. That's actually really bad, because if this turn timers, and in some ways in the long term, right, Niflheim doesn't really need to get a clean win on this. I should have had more advance and cast spells. because we'll be forced to retreat, and then anyone who retreats on our side will just die. Yes, I should have set advance and cast spells on our casters. So we do manage to kill, like, that's one giant, but like these giants that are far away, you can see like our Pillar of Fires are like all over the place. I'm trying to bring up the turn timer and either I can't remember. There we go. It's just taking a second. We have generated a ton of chaff, and of course, right, this guy, I managed to turn off team colored squares. Oh, hey, we actually got an enslaved mind. Okay, that really works out, so we'll have to see. We may have had some retreats, but yeah, I think it was only like round 60 or something. Yeah, so we do lose a lot, but mage-wise, we don't lose anything. That's a really big deal, right? Because like most of these mages are kind of irreplaceable for us at this point, at least on short notice. And I don't know where the heck all of our equite went, but we, in theory, only lost 3. We lose a ton of Long Dead Horse. That's a lot of death gems, so that does hurt. We do pick up 2 Nephil Giants, so that's cool. Maybe should invest more in like some really decked out. We're using a lot of penetration items, which are not cheap, and you know, we do not have a ton of gems. And then we lose some trolls, which is at this point kind of bad because they're troops that, you know, will survive. But it does mean less upkeep. In terms of like who did the killing, you can see the white mages did a lot of killing. Flame Spirits did a good amount of killing. Sea King as well. Our equite still, you know, for the troops managed to do okay, although the Long Dead Horse, they probably just killed like a lot of bug chaff and stuff like that. But still fairly killy. And then in terms of like what Niflheim actually lost, yeah, I would say significant, but certainly not crippling. This is not all of the giants, I feel like. So I feel like a portion of his army went somewhere else or chose not to storm, which is kind of weird. Because, you know, if Niflheim was telling the truth, this was the last throne they needed. So if they were going to storm, why not storm with everything? Or maybe they just lost more giants than I remembered. Regardless, they lose the majority of the giants. So I was saying we weren't getting a lot of kills, but I was actually wrong on that. We were able to wear them down eventually. I'll maybe have to take a look and see, like, well, what was killing the giants? Probably the casters, I would imagine. Pillar of Fire does do a ton of damage, so I think these Nephil Giants have like 10 fire resistance, maybe 15 with the army-wide buff, which is still not enough to be completely safe from Pillar of Fire. I just didn't think we had enough firepower, right, because they do regenerate quite a bit. And Pillar of Fire can miss, as we saw. So I just didn't think we had like the concentration of mages necessary to get enough like Pillar of Fire type hits quickly enough to overwhelm their regeneration in most cases. But that doesn't appear to have been the case, so we killed the majority of his sacreds, which is a big deal. Also, a Troll King dies, a Scrotty dies, just one of his cap onlys. His hero escapes. The Crystal Sorceress, not such a big deal. Adept of the Silver Order, probably not actually such a big deal. Depends on how long he's had this throne. Some of the thrones Niflheim has had for a long time. But he probably doesn't have another one of these guys nearby. And that said, you know, with astral travel on the menu, right, again, things can move around pretty quickly. Still, this is an excellent result overall. Much better than I was expecting, and like, yeah, I guess we will take a look at the rest of this war because I think it is going to matter. We'll have to see, you know, there's a good chance Niflheim astral traveled a bunch more stuff on top of that throne, so right, there's a good chance that was just round 1, but we at least come away with round 1. And, you know, we do a ton of summoning. Most of this was, you know, in that battle that we just saw, right? So a lot of this is gone now. But yeah, let's take a look at some of these raids. And it looks like for the most part, our raiders did not get magic phased on. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, this is our magic phase. But yeah, it does look like most of our raiders didn't get magic phased on top of. And so yeah, we're just going to try to soul slay this guy. There's just a little bit of province defense here, which unfortunately is probably going to soak up some of the soul slays. And if we don't soul slay the Scrotty, like, forget it. There's no way. Like, when we just have, like, you know, a staff to beat him with. We're never gonna kill him. Okay, so we went after the giant commander with a paralyze. Yeah, I think I threw in a couple paralyzes first, which is maybe, right? Because I just figured, well, if we get a good paralyze off on the Scrotty, right, some of those can last, yeah, for a long time. So that's going to give us a lot of time to try to soul slay. Oh boy, okay, he flies. Right, so if we'd paralyzed him, we'd have more chance. Now, we do have the shocking shield, so that's good. We are almost like fatigued out, and you can see like we gave up one of our eyes to have more penetration. So, but yeah, this Scrotty is super killy. And unfortunately, the shock is unlikely or less likely to stun him since he has a lot of hit points. So yeah, there we go. So that's a ton of gems down the drain. This also means that Niflheim had a retreat route open for sure. So that's unfortunate. Like probably needed, well, definitely needed like some cover, like even some bugs. Like if we surrounded him with some bugs, but we just didn't have a lot of other people to be teleporting in, right? All of our teleport gear was for the throne. So yeah, that's a super rough loss. I was kind of unsure. The Golem, I feel like, was always going to struggle against Niflheim. So in some ways, it's not the end of the world, but I mean, it's still a stupendous number of gems to be losing. Good amount of province defense here. Crystal mages, or just crystal Amazons rather, which we don't love because we're just dudes in robes and they shoot a lot of arrows. But we are ethereal, which is going to help a lot, but I did see a few damage things pop up. But yeah, once our fire elemental gets in, come on, fire elemental. Okay, we do have our guy. Oh no, we lost a mage. Okay, because here comes his bodyguards. Oh wait, no, they're just following him. Yeah, so we do have him set on advance and cast spells. So even though our fire elemental was struggling, our augur came up and saved the day. So that works out for us, and yeah, we don't actually lose anything. Not a huge PD dump, but a little bit of a PD dump against a somewhat better PD type. Very similar kind of raid, and like, yeah, we should be able to handle 1 PD. I don't think we need to watch that. Let's just make sure that, yeah, we don't kill ourselves. That's good. We do not. Let's take a look at this raid now. I don't remember this one. Okay, our Equite, just going somewhere. Yeah, just 1 PD. We're going to be seeing a lot of 1 PD. It is that point in the game, so yeah, Equite, they can handle 1 PD. We know about Yellow Mountains. That is the throne battle, so we watched that already. And then let's see. It's just a lone swarm raider, counting on the fact, yep, that it's just 1 PD. This is actually kind of dangerous because that guy has a bow, and you know, we're just a hobbit basically, or excuse me, a hoberg. But it does work out. The bugs come away with it in the end. So that's nice. You know, bugs against 1 province defense usually works out. The hoberg aren't necessarily the hardiest platform from which to deploy bugs. And like, yeah, also just 1 PD. I think this is a fort we're jumping on top of. And like, again, that's one of our relatively standard augur raiding groups. I have high hopes for them. Yeah, they come away with it. And they didn't even manage to kill anyone. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, we do win, so that's good. I guess it's the fire elemental that does the killing, and they don't show up in the battle report. Although then again, nobody on Niflheim's side died, so that remains a mystery. And then we get raided somewhere. This is a different werewolf, I think. Hard to say. Okay, yes, this must be a different werewolf because he bumped into our army. And so I have very high hopes for this. Although let's just make sure. Yeah, he's not running like any kind of, you know, super crazy specific, I'm built to destroy your army specifically. Although if we bump into someone else, like gems are a bit of a problem for this army. But like, yeah, I think we have some fellows on advance and cast spells. Our chaff is probably not going to be able to seal the deal by itself. But like, yeah, we should have some guys advancing, and like, yeah, there's a disintegrate that gets them in the end. So yeah, like a bunch of liches, that's definitely super scary, and that works out for us. We even find some gear that's not ours for once, so that's nice. And then let's see, we have another attack somewhere. Oh right, these are the villains we're clearing out, just to prepare because we want to get next to Micklin. These guys are actually going to be a little on the dangerous side for us. Again, like we don't really like the masked bows. Like they're really dangerous, even with the body ethereal. Uh-oh, yep, see, like, there goes a route. That was our communion master, too. So he was the one carrying the fire jar. Hopefully he survives the retreat, so at least, you know, we'll get to keep the item and the terracotta soldiers. But, you know, in terms of this being an effective raiding force, not really. And, like, yeah, there goes another augur. So, like, yeah, I think we're actually going to lose. We're going to lose to the villains. Come on, Flame Eruption. I was expecting more out of this augur elder. It's kind of pitiful. Oh, really, guys? Wait, are these guys... No, these are just brigand leaders. I thought maybe, you know, they're slightly more reddish. I'm like, are they berserking or something? But no, they're just like, yeah, we're not going to lose to some dudes in robes. And they're right. They come away with it. So, ouch. I mean, I knew that they were a little dangerous, but I have to say, like, of all the raids, you know, working or not working, I would have not guessed that this would be the one to fail this miserably. So ouch. And then let's see, we get raided. This is probably the other Scrotty Thug that, oh no, this is a remote attack spell, just creating some ghouls. And oh yeah, this is our fort. We are patrolling. Although unfortunately, I think this is a Soul Slay Communion. Oh wait, no, we're Fire Elemental as well. So I think the Fire Elemental is going to do pretty good work. Yep, here he comes. So as long as they don't get around us, which of course they immediately get around us. But it, you know, more or less works out. We lose some augurs. That's fine. We are old hands at losing augurs. And then we have Xibalba attacking Femoria, which, like, I guess in a vacuum kind of makes sense. Maybe this was accidental, like some magic phase, because this does look to be in Russ's, like, former lands, but I don't know, there's a lot of PD here. So it's just PD, and this is just beast bats. Although a lot of these, well, luckily this one's a prophet, so it doesn't show their name. I can't pronounce it anyway, but anyway, these guys are cap only. Okay, yeah, he only has 3 hit points because he's the prophet. Like I said, that enemy dominion is rough. But anyway, these guys are super valuable, really expensive. So using 3 of them is actually like a fairly heavy raid. And like, yeah, they're really powerful casters. So I can't imagine, although they do kind of suffer from the dude in robe syndrome where, well, I mean, they're not dudes or in robes. But they don't have much in the way of protection. That's probably why he's given them this armor. So like, yeah, these guys are pretty safe. They probably cast in, no, they didn't even bother casting invulnerability. They do have a lot of hit points. So in that sense, they don't have the human problem. So yeah, there's no way these slingers and heavy infantry are going to come away with it. But this also isn't like super useful for the game state. You know, that said, hey, I understand wanting to pick up some easy gains, so, you know, I don't hate it. At least we'll keep Femoria more busy, who, you know, potentially attack us. Yeah, here we have another swarm raid. Pretty sure, yeah, just 1 PD. Although, the giant commander could be a bit of a bother for swarm raiding Niflheim in general. Yeah, that said, like, I don't think he can bless himself, which is good, because there is poison resistance on the bless, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Maybe not, I can't remember actually, but like, yeah, the bugs do poison damage. Some of those bugs actually do a lot more damage than I was expecting, just like regular mundane damage. So never mind, it doesn't look like the giant commander will be too much of a problem. So yeah, you know, some swarm raiding works out against 1 province defense, and then we get raided. This is surely that Scrotty that I keep threatening, yes. So this is the guy who just ate a ton of gems, and of course, like, yeah, we don't have anything prepared for him because he already destroyed what we tried to prepare for him. And then we take some province with no province. Oh, this is our fort. So yeah, Niflheim moved a raiding group off, which I think is probably headed for Mictlan right now. That would be my guess. They're probably in Mictlan and patrolling, which is part of why we did not try to raid that this turn. And then it looks like Niflheim maybe sent a portion of their army back. No, this is just a ping from somewhere. And like, yeah, they correctly realized, like, yeah, we just left. I think I should probably invest a little more. We didn't really have, we needed to bring everything off the fort. But in general, like, the easiest thing to do to keep a fort locked down that you're not really planning on holding on to is to just leave a single unled unit. And as long as nobody even tries to poke their head out or anything, it will hold up the siege, but, you know, all it takes is something like this, and, you know, the 1 unit just gets driven off. So I do think there's value in, like, you know, just recruiting an indie commander and, like, having some cheap troops. And so it's like, if they try with a commander, like, they'll die, you know, and then if the enemy breaks out with something real, you don't actually lose too much. So I do think that would be better, but we didn't want to leave anything, right? Because, like, Russ is not out of this game. Not by a long shot. So, yeah, you know, there's this. And since this is absolutely going to unlock his capital, right, this guy's not going to stop all this, that means he can start producing skin shifters again, which, yeah, hooray! Brother Russ, yes, join us in this Niflheim threat. Please ignore the fact that I control a throne in your cap circle, and we've been fighting for like the last 30 turns. And then, yeah, I don't know, this is the computer. They managed to bump into, oh no, we sent one of our raiding groups, I think, at them for reasons I don't remember. We wanted this province, and yeah, there doesn't look to be too much in there. Actually, I think these guys are probably going to try to link up with our other army in the south to go after that throne that Niflheim Astral traveled onto, so I think that's what that was about. And then, yeah, more raids, of course. I think, yeah, this is our group that was on top of Russ's throne. That is splitting out into 3. Yeah, just 1 PD here, so that works out for us. And then let's take a look at this next guy. This is another augur group near Russ, but not part of that same group. There's some retreats here, it looks like, or I don't know, maybe just some fellows who got abandoned at some point. Actually, you know what? Those retreats are going to be pretty dangerous. I was like, man, we can just look at the battle report, but that wolf is pretty fast. So I think this is going to highlight, right, the fire elemental is coming out a little too late in the script. Yeah, so we don't even get the fire elemental out. and like all it takes is like one fast thing, and like this style of raiding, you know, starts to fall apart. Not completely, like we had some bodyguards. It was definitely, we had an opportunity. There was a chance we were going to get the fire elemental out. But we may need to move the fire elemental farther forward in the script. And I mean, I knew that definitely, and I don't think this was intentional on Niflheim's part, but having seen this, I think we can definitely expect, you know, more things like that. They're being set up intentionally. So that's another raid that doesn't work out for us. All it takes is that one Jotun Wolf, and then let's see. Who knows what raid this is? Oh yeah, we're just scout pinging. Mostly just to say hello to Niflheim. Interesting. Okay, so this is the throne that they just astral traveled onto. So I'm guessing there's a fort here, and this is just their one PD, right? And their army is now hiding inside that fort that they magic phased on top of that province. So sadly, we don't even get to scout that army. Just yeah, that whole situation in the south, not my best moment. Here's some more swarm raiding against 2 giants. But I have faith in the bugs, and of course now is when the bugs fail me. So I guess 1 giant, that's okay. 2 giants, not okay anymore, at least not for a horticulturalist. Still, overall, I think like the rating went in our favor. We'll take a look at the province graph. Like it's hard to like, you know, tally up and really tell like, are we winning, are we losing? So we'll take a look at that after we finish with you know, the rest of the messages. Fomorria, right, they're on top of another throne. This is a throne fort. So yeah, Russ has a little bit of stuff left in here, although I do think this was a throne that Niflheim had attempted to storm at one point, possibly. And like we've seen this army in action, right? Like, yeah, here's the mass flight, right? That's what I was worried about on that other battle that we just fought. Although that said, Niflheim has a lot fewer things, a lot fewer units than Fomorria has in this army, and mass flight definitely tends to favor the side with more units. That said, like those Nifl giants are just so dangerous, and so I just felt that like, well, if they get into the back line, like forget it. But yeah, you see, like Russ just didn't have any chaff. Not that some chaff would have let them win that battle, like, right, there's just complete force mismatch, but I do think that if they had some chaff, you know, they would have been able to do that more than just kill like 1 corpse construct. You know, 12 wizards to kill 1 corpse construct, that hurts. But again, like, you know, total force mismatch. Russ is down to it, being attacked by 3 people. I don't think there's any question about their skill. So yeah, in Ill Omen, some unrest, that's fine. Fairy Court, that's actually a good thing, other than the tax that we lose, but this looks like a wasteland, so, you know, joke's on the Fairy Queen. There was no tax to be had in the first case. And then, yeah, there's some sect preaching that labor is wicked. We don't really care too much about that. We have bigger problems, and then let's see, yeah, there's a... Speaking of bigger problems, like, yeah, deathmatch, we're not going to send somebody. And then we have various sieges and are under siege in various places. Most of these sieges are not real. In fact, pretty much none of these sieges are real. And interestingly, it looks like, right, Niflheim must have not like astral traveled or, you know, moved a bunch of stuff on top of this throne because, you know, they don't have enough stuff on top to actually damage the walls. Oh, and luckily the sub for Vanheim has completely lost touch with reality in this game, which is easy to have happen when you're just locked in a fort and you have absolutely no map vision. They believe, I think, that it is Fomorria that is on top of this fort, or will be on top of it soon, because they said the only reason they're still alive is because at one point, I think it was a turn or two ago, Fomorria had staled, and that is great news, right? The longer that they think that the Fomorria hammer is like about to fall on them and they just sit in the fort, the better for us. Because there is definitely like nothing holding them in. So yeah, I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. I have to say this turn kind of it threw me for a bit of a loop. The game state is like not quite what I was thinking it was. Although I will say, like, on further reflection, Niflheim definitely still has a chance to win this game. But I think if they don't win it soon, I actually think Niflheim might be in a bit of trouble. I mean, they're not out, not by a long shot, and you know, I think they'll make it to the end and be a contender to the end. But I do think that, like, you know, they're failed. Well, nearly failed gambit for a throne rush. Although I don't know if you can call it a rush at like turn 89 for a game this large. It's a rush, I guess. It has the characteristics, it seems like to me, as a rush, right? Because I think they've overextended themselves in order to try to pick up the thrones, and that's why we're not really facing as much resistance as I was expecting in their heartlands. So I think that taking this throne is pretty much not going to happen for them. They have significant retreat forces here, which are going to be a problem, and we're pulling a bunch of stuff to our capital that will hopefully form the core of something that's going to deal with this while our army goes to try to deal with Russ. But I think between like what I have here and what Russ has in his capital versus like what Niflheim has, and what they're going to be able to bring up, which is like not much really, they're just unlikely to be able to capture this throne at this point. However, and like while I was still aware of this, I think I maybe didn't respond as strongly as I could have or should have. I think the most likely move for Niflheim is to try to like astral travel or however they're moving this army around. Drop it on top of this fort and throne and try to grab this, because this is not very well defended at this point. So we are trying to like sneak back in. We're sneaking back in our Lars. We're trying to move in, a mage with, a little more chaff, and we're doing like some chaff recruitment and some augur recruitment. We are trying to set up a defense here, but like, yeah, this is just there's not a ton of stuff here. So maybe should have started teleporting mages immediately, but I, am hoping to let our gem stocks recover a little bit, and there are other things we want to do, but definitely, this turn has rolled. But so looking back at this, I think I probably should have thrown as much as I could into defending this throne, because I think it's probably the weakest throne that they can go after. Although that said, if they're aware of this Calum throne, maybe they just actually take these forces and start moving for this Calum throne. I don't know if there's a Holy Three that survived in this group. But there isn't really much over here to stop them. They may not be aware of that, right? But I guess it depends. Like, Calum doesn't really seem like they're engaged with anyone, so theoretically they could defend it, but I feel like if they were interested in defending it, they would have chosen to put a fort there. So who knows? But anyway, my current concern is that, like, Niflheim jumps on here, we aren't able to stop them, and Niflheim gets the win. If that doesn't happen, and there's other ways, right? Even if we lose this throne, we are bringing our army here, as well as some of our terracotta chaff to reinforce it. So we'll have a good amount of stuff here. We've seen this army before, and we're going to jump on top of this throne. Unfortunately, this army doesn't have a ton of siege strength. It'd be nice if we could get some more eagles, but our pretender is busy, and he's pretty much the only aircaster that we have at the moment that can bring those guys in. And this is, I think, the blood spell that creates a fort, and it's got 750 wall integrity, right? So it's a citadel. It's going to be very difficult to break down. It's going to take us a while. So Niflheim will probably be able to hold this even empty, particularly because we can't move through this mountain pass, right? So we're at least a couple turns away from even jumping on top of it. That said, Macone looks like they're going to be, making a play potentially for this. I think that, maybe there's some casters here that we don't see, but this is looking like it would get absolutely obliterated by, like, whatever Niflheim has here. It's also probably, even though it's a bunch of giants, it's probably still not enough siege strength to break this down, like, relatively rapidly. So we'll see, right? There are reasons that Niflheim wouldn't necessarily, like, gateway or astral travel this army out, but on the other hand, it is a very strong citadel, and they may, they can probably one turn crack this crappy fort. Speaking of which, as soon as this gets locked down, we are probably going to demolish this fort and then spend our earth gems to magic phase a fort, on top of this. But I think we're going to need like one free turn where it has no fort whatsoever. So, until like this is dealt with, I don't really feel secure doing that. So anyway, that's kind of like the Niflheim situation. Like, otherwise, like, we're continuing to raid. We're actually gonna like try to hold here. We're moving some infantry up. We may actually even be able to break this down and capture this. And we can see there's a Therodian raider here, so we don't really want to bump. So it's fine. We'll hold here and like see what they're gonna do. We're actually going to go at Niflheim's capital, just because, like, sure, why not? We were able to leave a scout here for a long time, so I don't think there's been, like, a huge PD dump. I think Niflheim has enough different things that they're wanting to be doing that it's unlikely that they're going to leave a lot of stuff patrolling here. Also, I feel like our other moves are, like, pretty obvious. Like, when I was looking at this group, it's like, okay, well, we could either raid here or here, and it's like, that's going to be too easy to predict. We're probably going to get killed. And then I was like, well, hang on, we could just go at Niflheim. So hopefully it's an unexpected move that, you know, might work out. We won't be able to stay on top of the capital, but that's okay, right? We're just looking to disrupt for the most part with these forces. If we could grab another capital, though, that would be nice. So this is where some of our eagles are going. Not too much to this army. I use that term loosely. We were planning on having like an augur, you know, fire elemental group in here, but of course, you know, they died to the villains, so we're not going to have them. But like, yeah, there just isn't a whole lot here, so hopefully we'll be able to, you know, take the province. And then break down the fort walls and actually get in and take another capital, because, like, sure, why not? And again, it just really looks like, you know, Niflheim doesn't have, you know, a ton of stuff. We scry on top of this fort and it's empty, and then like this looks more or less empty. Like, yeah, we're attacking here. We're still trying to put on a lot of raiding pressure, like in Niflheim's core, where we are trying to reduce raiding pressure, I guess. We, you know, have fewer raiders up here, but we're not going to raid into this Niflheim territory because, right, like, assuming Niflheim doesn't win on a throne rush shortly, well, now all of a sudden the game state is like pretty different. So, you know, Therados is like another contender, and we're probably going to start tangling with them in the not too distant future. So they're, you know, a possibility for the win. And I think the other strong contender is Femoria, although I don't think, like, throne-wise, Femoria is in kind of a bad situation. Like, they don't have a lot of thrones, but they do have a lot of territory, and like they're near some thrones, definitely, and they have some strong armies. So, like, I think that they're in a pretty strong position in terms of resources. Now, whether or not they can translate that into throne position, and it's going to be harder to say. But with the Niflheim threat like somewhat curbed, right? Obviously, we have a massive and relatively undefended border with them. And so if we also had to fight against Femoria, that would be really bad. So that is kind of why, you know, we're hoping to like leave just this Niflheim corridor. I'll probably even reach out and, like, I don't know, there's a ton of gems here, but there's no population left. Like, we can't even put province defense, so not realistically going to be able to hold this. So there's a pretty good chance that like Femoria can get like all this central area, but like that's okay, right? Like, if that keeps them busy, and then like maybe they go after Macon, and there's this throne down here, and then eventually that might give them a border with Therados. So it'll just give them other things to do, versus like if we just raid all of this away, then it's like, okay, well, like, where does Femoria take this giant army? And I think, you know, into us. The other thing, I mean, it does look like possibly they're fighting against Xibalba. I was thinking this Xibalban attack was like maybe more of a bump, kind of in other territory that had been recently conquered. But this doesn't really look like the case. Like, I think this has been Fomorian territory for a little while, so it's looking like, you know, Xibalba may have made their decision, and their decision was Femoria. So, you know, we'll see, all right? I don't know. We know that Xibalba is, like, decently powerful, but also I think the player is maybe a little on the checked out side. Maybe less so than I thought. So if they come in hard, like, against Femoria, then there's a good chance that this army actually moves that way, and then we'll, you know, step up our raiding pressure if we can in this area. The other thing, of course, right, is like Russ is free again. And so, like, yeah, like we definitely are going to have to deal with that. And that's probably going to be the first thing that this army tries to do. I mean, other than we have to break siege, there's ironically some fire snakes holding us in. So once we break free, and there's also a decent chance that, like, I mean, you know, maybe Russ just jumps like right on top of this fort. So we'll see, right? We might fight what Russ has immediately, or they may choose to like split out and raid, you know, into a bunch of like surrounding territory. Obviously, like, Russ is greatly reduced, but at the end of the day, you know, they did take luck scales, and they still have some firebirds left, so they're going to be getting at least some gem and gold income periodically from luck events and like their capitals where they make skin shifters from. I do think that their god is dead right now, so there's a big chunk of their bless that's offline. So yeah, we want to attack Russ like sooner rather than later, and that's another reason that like we're probably going to send this army, you know, against what Russ has, try to lock down that capital and make sure that we don't have a skin shifter problem again. I also had a brief moment about like, hey, maybe we could win. And like, I don't think so. You know, looking at it like right now, like we have 3 thrones and I believe we need 8 to win, right? So that would mean picking up 5 more thrones. So like, yeah, maybe this one, although we have this Vanheir problem that we haven't dealt with, right? So first we have to deal with the Vanheirs, and you'll notice I did not mention a plan for dealing with the Vanheirs. That is because one does not exist. Assuming we can deal with these retreats, then whatever is massing here will hopefully eventually deal with the Vanheirs. But anyway, right, let's call this one 4, sure. And then of course we're going to overrun Niflheim's core. That'll go completely swimmingly, and Theridos won't jump in and mess with us. So this will be throne number 5. And then as long as we're grabbing Niflheim territory, like let's make this like throne number 6, and then sure, this can be throne number 7, and then I don't know, throne number 8 here. I mean, like, right, we have a lot of work cut out for us. And I think Cataclysm should be starting relatively soon. I think like within the next 10 turns, Cataclysm will start. So then it'll really probably more be a question of like just digging in and trying to prevent the horrors from destroying our thrones. So yeah, I think this game is still like in a really interesting state, and excited to see what comes. We are recruiting some more Equite, because like sure, why not? You know, they've actually been doing okay. Like as long as we don't mass them up in a place where they can get nuked on the strategic map, you know, once we layer like all the buffs on them, like they're good troops. The Bless is decent. Like they still do good work for us. So I actually think still recruiting them is viable, even though it has issues. We're also recruiting like some human infantry, really mostly just because we're going to need like some more siege strength to try to like break down forts in this area. Like while we can apply pretty good raiding pressure, we don't really have a whole lot in the way of siege strength. We have a little bit down here in the form of like, you know, a bunch of mage bodyguards, and we are moving them up in the direction of Mictlan, but yeah. And I don't think we have too many like interesting summons. Yeah, we're bringing another Banelord in, right? We do need some more anti-super combatant tech, so gonna be trying to double down on those guys, gear them out. We'll see how that goes. More corpse constructs all over the place, of course, like various forging, you know, some boots to help move guys around, some gear for those Banelords that, you know, we just discussed. But yeah, a lot of our gem spending has been going into battles these last couple turns, and that'll probably continue for at least 1 or 2 more turns, and then maybe we'll try to store up a couple turns income to, you know, get some cool casters in. One thing would really like to get, we do have Conjuration 8 now, and so that'll let us get Fairy Queens somewhere. Yeah, Fairy Court. We definitely don't have the Nature Gems for this right now, but this is a Nature 3 and Air 3 commander, really looking at that Air 3, because someone else that can summon in Great Eagles, and, you know, just having like some more air casters, like high-level air casters is definitely a thing that we're missing right now. So that's probably like really the only big summon that we're particularly looking at right now, but we're a little ways off from that. So yeah, I think that more or less covers turn 89.